The moment I gripped the lever, my hands trembled, not with fear, but with something like electricity running through my veins. For months, maybe years, the weight of those houses had pressed against me, their roofs like lids, their walls like cages, the lives inside them loud enough to drown out my own heartbeat. Behind the dam, the water had been waiting, coiled tight, whispering in the dark, promising release. I yanked hard. A groan ripped through the stone, then a crack like thunder split the air. And then it came. The first surge was almost gentle, a sheet of silver spilling forward, but within seconds it roared into a beast. The ground shuddered as torrents raced downhill, swallowing fences, battering porches, snapping wood like twigs. I laughed, loud, wild, because it was beautiful, terrifying, unstoppable. Shingles flew like leaves, glass shattered in bursts that glittered in the spray. Voices rose in panicked shouts, only to vanish beneath the roar. My chest felt light, like I'd been holding my breath for years, and finally let it go. The dam was gone, the houses were crumbling, and for the first time, the land was alive again, rushing, surging, untamed. I stood there drenched, arms outstretched, watching the flood carry everything away, and all I could think was, this is what freedom feels like. The water struck the first row of houses with a sound that was half explosion, half scream. Walls buckled, timbers split, and the roofs lifted as if plucked upward by invisible hands. I could see the neighbors rushing out, their voices shrill, their arms flailing. But they were nothing against the surge. The flood spun cars sideways, smashed fences into splinters, and carried furniture, clothing, toys, all the tiny tokens of a settled life, out into the churning brown. I couldn't look away. Every crash of water against a building sent vibrations up through my feet, through my chest, until it felt like the pulse of the land itself was hammering inside me. My heart raced to match it. The air was wet with mist, tasting like iron and stone, filling my lungs so fast I thought I might burst. The chaos wasn't frightening. It was exhilarating. It was a storm I had conjured with one choice, one pull of the lever, and now I was watching it devour everything I had built. I saw windows cave, doors rip off hinges, staircases float like driftwood. The sound was a symphony, wood snapping, metal shrieking, glass shattering, water roaring louder than any human cry. The more it destroyed, the lighter I felt, as if every broken board, every drowned foundation, stripped away a layer of weight I hadn't known was strangling me. I couldn't stop grinning. My hands, soaked and trembling, felt alive for the first time in years. The houses were falling, one by one. And instead of sorrow, what rose inside me was joy, wild, electric, unstoppable joy. The flood tore deeper into the land, carving new channels where streets had been, twisting the ground into something raw and unrecognizable. Houses that once stood proud in neat rows toppled like dominoes, their fragments colliding in the torrent. I watched entire lives get swept into the current, a rocking chair spinning like a toy, a photograph floating for a heartbeat before vanishing beneath the foam, children's bicycles cartwheeling downstream as if weightless. The roar of the water swallowed every human sound. Even my own laughter was stolen, carried away as though the river claimed it too. I felt the spray hit my face, sharp as needles, and it thrilled me. Every second, the current grew wilder, more alive, as though it had been dreaming of this moment for decades, waiting for someone bold enough to free it. And I had been the one. The power of it surged through me. I wasn't just watching destruction, I was part of it. My heart pounded in rhythm with the water. My veins burned hot with its fury. I saw the land itself changing beneath my eyes, the tidy order of homes dissolving into chaos, into freedom. Roofs collapsed and drifted off like broken ships, gardens unraveled into ribbons of soil. The grid of streets was erased in an instant, as if they had never existed. For the first time, I understood I hadn't unleashed disaster. I had unveiled the truth of the land, untamed, unstoppable, beautiful. My body shook with exhilaration, my throat raw from shouting against the thunder. I spread my arms wide, drenched to the bone, and let the storm of water crown me, as if I were no longer a builder, no longer a prisoner of walls, but something vaster, something flowing. The roar began to thin, not because the water had lost strength, but because it had already claimed so much. The houses were no longer standing obstacles, but broken fragments rushing along in surrender. The land, stripped bare, glistened under the weight of its freedom, every surface slick with motion and shine. I walked forward, ankle deep at first, then knee deep, feeling the current pull at me like eager hands. It was dangerous, yes, but I felt no fear, only the dizzying rush of standing inside the very force I had unleashed. Debris swirled past beams, shattered doors, a mattress folding in on itself, a child's doll with one arm missing. Each object carried a story, now torn loose, unbound, drifting toward some unknown sea. I tilted my head back and let the mist strike my skin, let the sound fill me until I was trembling with it. The air was charged, alive, and so was I. My laughter this time wasn't wild, it was deep, almost reverent, a hymn to the chaos that had swept the order clean. Around me, the ground was changing, low places filling, high ridges jutting out like new bones, a geography being rewritten in real time. It was beautiful, raw, and merciless. I stretched my arms wide again, not in command but in surrender, as though I belonged to this flood just as much as it belonged to me. My breath came hard, sharp, alive, every inhale soaked with water and earth. I realized I wasn't watching anymore. I was inside the flow, claimed by it, remade by it. And in that surrender, exhilaration became something sharper, purer, something like joy fused with awe. When the last of the water slowed, the silence was almost unbearable. After the thunder, the crash, the unrelenting roar, the hush felt louder than everything that came before. I stood in it, soaked to the marrow, watching the land breathe in its new shape. The houses were gone, not toppled shells, not ruins, but erased, scattered to pieces too small to matter. The earth shone dark and clean, carved with fresh veins where the water had run wild, like scars that told of survival rather than loss. Pools shimmered where living rooms had been. Birds circled above, cautious but curious, already claiming what was theirs again. I drew a breath so deep it filled every corner of me, and for the first time, it wasn't heavy. No fences hemmed me in, no roofs pressed down, no cries clawed for my attention. The air was sharp, raw, tasting of stone and rain, and it felt like I had been given lungs anew. My pulse still hammered, the echo of the flood still running in my veins, but beneath it lay something steadier, an exultant calm. I looked at the land not as property, not as burden, but as something alive, feral, free, unbound. And I felt myself the same. The flood had not destroyed me, it had carried me out of myself, stripped me of the weight I'd been too blind to shed. I laughed again, softer this time, and the sound didn't vanish. It lingered, rolled across the wet expanse, mingling with the hush. I whispered into the emptiness, not to claim victory, but to mark the moment. Now it breathes. Now. So do I.